Here are the top stories for today, September 13, 2021. The government seeks to vaccinate the general population against COVID-19 next month with the arrival of more vaccines. President Duterte extends the declaration of the state of calamity due to COVID-19 for one more year. Back to school even in a pandemic, the Department of Education reports over 26 million enrollees this school year. And the Bureau of Fire Protection hopes to expand its roles as firefighters and protectors with the passage of the BFP Modernization Act. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, the government moves forward with its COVID-19 inoculation drive as 2 million doses of government-procured Sinovac vaccines arrived in the country this morning. Secretary Carlito Galvez, who was present during the arrival of the jab, said this will be distributed in areas with a high number of cases such as Calabarzon, Central Luzon, Western Visayas, Zamboanga, Davao, and highly urbanized cities. The vaccines arrived in Manila via Philippine Airlines and were immediately transported to a cold storage facility. The government targets to inoculate 70% of the eligible adult population, or about 77.2 million, while the plan to include those below 17 years old as well as the administration of booster shots are being reviewed. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said the general population may be vaccinated next month with the expected arrival of around 61 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines.
So Sinovac po, nag-commit na po tayo, may kontrata na po tayo, at ito po ay inassume na po na darating yung 12 million. And then yung Pfizer, ito po yung ating procured na 40 million. Ito po yung kanilang last delivery for the last of the quarter. At sa darating po mga buwan, 10 million each na po ang bibigay po nila. And then Moderna, nagkaroon po tayo ng negotiation and also the follow-up of DFA at saka po ni Secretary Lorenzana at saka ni Ambassador Babes Romualdez, tatasan po ng from 3 to 5 million. And then AstraZeneca, meron na po tayo na-receive kanina. And then Sputnik, at yung po Sputnik, nangako po sila na magbibigay po ng 1 million. And another donation, most likely sa Japan, another AstraZeneca 1 million. And sa COVAX, they assured us to have at least 8 to 10 million this September. So October po, 10 million sa Sinovac, 10 million sa Pfizer, another 3 million or 5 million sa Moderna, and then AstraZeneca, another 1 million, the Sputnik, another 1 million, and then another donation from another country, and 3 to 5 million to 3 to 5 millions na sa COVAX. A total of 61 million, Mr. President.
The government is currently in talks with COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccine booster shots. The new deal would empower the local government units and the private sector to purchase their preferred jabs. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said around 2.2 billion pesos have been initially allotted for next year's procurement of COVID-19 vaccines.
Because we are now negotiating with 4 manufacturers with introduction of reformulated booster. Yung reformulated booster po, pinake po nila para po makuha yung variant. So parang ito po yung mga next generation na booster. Pero isa lang po ang gagawin na para ma-extend po yung ating efficacy. And then also yung full authorization ng Pfizer and maybe other brands in the future will change our procurement strategies kasi yung mga ating mga LGU at mga private sector pwede na po dumiretso. Wala na po tayong magiging MPA.
President Rodrigo Duterte has extended the validity of the state of calamity for one more year following the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Under Proclamation 1218, the The state of calamity extended starting today, September 13, until September 12, 2022. The extension will allow the national government as well as local governments to continue the implementation of the COVID-19 vaccination program, augment pandemic response funds, monitor and control prices of basic necessities and prime commodities, and provide basic services to the affected populations. The president's decision came amid the spike in COVID-19 cases and deaths, despite the government's efforts to stop the further transmission of the dreaded disease. Meanwhile, instead of wasting officials' time, Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea urged senators to just file the necessary cases over the alleged overpriced COVID-19 pandemic purchases. Medialdea said the ongoing Senate hearings have shown nothing to prove their case except to surround it with speculations drawn from the bullying of resource persons, most of whom have already been criminally condemned without due process. Citing President Rodrigo Duterte, Medialdea said the government should be prioritizing the COVID-19 pandemic above anything else. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is currently probing supposed deficiencies of the Department of Health in spending COVID-19 response funds, including the purchase of allegedly overpriced personal protective equipment or PPEs from a foreign firm. The court could compel the Philippine Red Cross to submit its financial records for scrutiny. This is the remark of Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo after President Rodrigo Duterte repeatedly demanded PRC Chair and Senator Richard Gordon to open the humanitarian organization's financial records. Panelo said the PRC should submit itself to an audit of its finances if they wanted to prove that its business dealings did not smack of greed and a desire for inordinate profit. Panelo also questioned the absence of legally mandated discounts on PRC services, particularly on COVID-19 testing. He said the PRC, which is already exempt from the payment of all taxes, failed to apply discounts on its RT-PCR tests for senior citizens and persons with disabilities. President Duterte earlier vented frustrations over a series of hearings by the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee led by Gordon on the government's procurement of medical supplies. He threatened to cut ties with the PRC and stop its funding if Gordon rejected his call for a state audit. Still to come, back to school even in a pandemic, the Department of Education reports over 26 million enrollees this school year. And frontlines get to ride for free again with the relaunching of Libreng Sakay. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The Department of Education recorded a high number of enrollees this year despite the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. Education Secretary Leonor Briones said the department recorded an 8.45% increase in enrollment.
We recorded an 8.45% increase in enrollment from 24.92 million learners to 27 million learners in 2019. And despite the pandemic, Mr. President, we managed an enrollment of 26.23 million students for this year, which is 97% of pre-pandemic. And considering all the different varieties of viruses which has plagued our system, including education, it's quite significant that our enrollment levels are still high.
Meanwhile, Secretary Briones attributes the improved overall condition of the country's education system to the Duterte administration. She said President Duterte inspired the department to carry out reforms such as building more infrastructures and facilities, increasing teachers' pay, and modernizing the approach to teaching that benefits Filipino learners.
We have built, with funds which you provided, 150,149 new classrooms compared to the period of 2010 to 2016 of 118,000. We have built technical and vocational laboratories of 12,786 compared to 147 which were built during the same period of 2010 and 2016. We have repaired and rehabilitated classrooms, 103,548, vis-a-vis the previous period of 35,804.
President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the government to throw its full weight in its anti-illegal narcotics campaign to counter drug syndicates bringing in huge volumes of drugs in the country. In his televised talk to the people on COVID-19 aired on Saturday, President Duterte expressed fear of what might happen to the nation if the trade of illegal drugs will continue unabated. Despite this, the president renewed his commitment to continue eradicating illegal drugs in the country and punish those who are involved in the illegal drug trade. The president's statement came following successive drug busts that netted millions worth of illegal narcotics in Cavite. Authorities confiscated approximately 48 kilos of shabu worth 331.2 million pesos and arrested 2 suspects in Imus last September 9. A second buy-bust operation in Bacoor, Cavite neutralized top drug personality Basher Bangon Pangkoga, yielding a kilo of suspected shabu worth 600,000 pesos and 180 kilos of illegal contraband valued at 1.2 billion pesos.
Hindi ako nagbibiro kung sinasabi ko na natatakot ako sa anong mangyari ng bayan ko pag hindi maghinto talaga itong pasok ng droga. It would require more than just double of what we are doing now to cope up with the widespread importation or the presence of whatever, baka dito rin, the drugs in the country. But I would like to reassure again those who are into it that do not destroy my country because I will kill you. It's no joke coming from me since I was mayor. Di talaga ako papayag kailanman.
The Philippine National Police and the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency are asking courts to allow the immediate destruction of more than 5.5 billion pesos worth of shabu seized in separate operations last week. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar said he had tasked their lawyers to ask for all courts concerned for the destruction of not only the shabu seized in Zambales, Bataan, and Cavite, but also other illegal drugs confiscated in police-initiated operations. He said this is based on President Rodrigo Duterte's directive that these illegal drugs will be destroyed to avoid all speculations of drug recycling. The confiscated 809 kilograms of shabu in Zambales, Bataan, and Cavite, with the street value of more than 5.5 billion, are the biggest drug haul so far this year. Meanwhile, Eleazar ordered a thorough investigation following the arrest of a police officer in Herona, Tarlac, who was tagged as both user and protector of illegal drug operations. Eleazar directed the police regional office in Central Luzon to know if Corporal Gaymar Orquero has other police cohorts. He assured that Orquero may be dismissed immediately in the service. Orquero and his supposed civilian cohorts were arrested during a buy-bust operation in Barangay Kalayaan on September 10. Eleazar lauded the Central Luzon Police for its swift action that led to the arrest of Orquero. He urged the public to report police involved in irregularities through the official PNP hotline. Medical frontliners, essential workers, and authorized persons outside of residence can now get free rides again as Phase 2 of the service contracting program opened today. Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade said the Libreng Sakay program now covers other regions in the country aside from Metro Manila. The free ride program of the Department of Transportation and Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board served about 31.6 million Filipinos. Meanwhile, the LTFRB released 1.5 billion pesos in payouts for participating drivers and operators. Nearly 14,000 barangays across the country have benefited from different livelihood programs of the Department of Trade and Industry. In a report to President Rodrigo Duterte over the weekend, Secretary Ramon Lopez said DTI extended livelihood training and assistance to 154,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs. Lopez said the DTI assists local and overseas workers who were displaced from their jobs amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Livelihood Seeding Program provides livelihood kits, while the Programa sa Pangkabuhayan sa Pagbangon at Ginhawa conducts entrepreneurship trainings to those affected by calamities. DTI also gives access to financing arm Small Business Corporation, which offers zero-interest loans to existing MSMEs under its COVID-19 Assistance to Restart Enterprises or CARES program. Meanwhile, the P3 program provides microloans so beneficiaries will avoid loan sharks. Up next, the Bureau of Fire Protection hopes to expand its roles as firefighters and protectors with the passage of the BFP Modernization Act. And a school in the hinterlands of Iligan City gets a new toilet facility. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. The Bureau of Fire Protection Modernization Law is seen to help firefighters assume their new role in disaster and emergency response, aside from their traditional mandate of firefighting. This after President Rodrigo Duterte signed into law Republic Act 11589, kicking off a 10-year modernization period. BFP Officer in Charge Director Louis Puracan said the agency is truly privileged that they are given this much attention to be developed at par with globally acceptable standards. The new law provides for the regular funding of equipment, fire stations, including the recruitment and training of its personnel to address the ever-evolving needs of Filipino peoples during disasters and in the nation's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Duterte said the new law will not only guarantee the safety of the BFP personnel, but will hone their skills and expertise in areas of fire prevention. Registrants to the PhilSys are reminded that they will get a land bank account along with their national ID. Land Bank has co-located in PhilSys registration sites nationwide to provide unbanked registrants with their own accounts in support of the national government's financial inclusion agenda. As of September 2nd, a total of 5.3 million unbanked national ID registrants have opened land bank accounts. PhilSys registrants can get a Land Bank agent banking card, which can be used for cash in, cash out, and transfer funds at any LBP branch or agent banking partner. The card can be used even without an initial deposit. The holder can also withdraw cash at MasterCard accepting automated teller machines, perform cashless transactions, shop online, and receive government subsidies digitally. National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon slammed what he called politicking in opposing the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflicts Barangay Development Program or BDP. Esperon, NTF-ALCAC Vice Chair, said he was saddened by misinformation regarding the BDP. This after opposition lawmakers insisted that the task force's multi-billion allocation for 2022 was considered pork barrel, which the Supreme Court had declared illegal. Esperon denied that the NTF-LCAC has ever controlled or manipulated funds meant for the program. He also disputed claims that there was preferential treatment in identifying barangay beneficiaries. He said the Department of the Interior and local government and the NTF-LCAC will monitor and evaluate projects under the BDP. The BDP, the flagship project of the NTF-LCAC, intends to bring sustainable development programs to conflict-prone and conflict-affected barangays. The Army and the Kiwanis Club jointly constructed a toilet facility that benefited a school in Barangay Kalilangan in Iligan City as part of efforts to bring services to the public. Claire Gighe has the story.
Kalilangan Elementary School or CAS in the off-grid Barangay Kalilangan in Iligan City has just benefited from a newly constructed 4-cubicle comfort room for their institution. This is a joint effort of the Kiwanis Club of Metropolitan Iligan and Kiwanis Club of Downtown Iligan as funders, and the 55th Engineer Mobilizer Brigade through the 554th Engineer Kalilintad Battalion as the implementing party providing equipment and manpower.
Itong sama-sama nilang pagbibigay tulong o pag-combine ng kanilang mga kinakailangan nyo para maitayo itong CR, ito yung kanilang contribution upang ang ating kabataan ay mabigyan ng edukasyon at maiangat ang ating bansang Pilipinas.
Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Badar, commanding officer of the 554th Engineer Battalion, shared that his troop worked overtime to beat the timeline plotted for the construction. The Kiwanis Club of Metropolitan Iligan also revealed despite the big funding they needed, they still pushed through as this was totally aligned with their goal of assisting the government in delivering aid and services to the community.
At first, hindi namin naisip na makakaya namin. Kasi malaki po ang cost nitong CR compared po sa aming mga project, mga soft projects lang po. Nagkataon lang po na pag determinado ka talaga na matapos ang isang project or simulan isang project, magagawan talaga.
Constituents expressed gratitude to the stakeholders for the support they received.
Para sa uban, gamay kayo ni siya nga tabang, para sa mua, dako na kay nga tabang. Una, wala may ka-experience og mga ingon ani nga CR. Hinaoton ta nga dili lang kini moabot sa ako ang barangay sa amo ang barangay o ginaot po ta nga dili sila masumhan og tabang sa moa.
For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Ligan City Information Center.
The EPISCOM Group has hailed Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Martin Andanar as a recipient of the Outstanding Filipino Luminary Award for National Government Service this year. This year's Outstanding Filipino Luminary Award bears the theme Inspiring the Filipino People Amidst the Pandemic. The group said Secretary Andanar was recognized for proving the effectiveness of media by communicating whole-of-government programs to the public. His initiatives include the institutionalization of the freedom of information, the creation of the National Communications Policy, and the creation of the Presidential Task Force on Media Security along with PCOO Undersecretary Joel C. Egco. The awarding ceremony will be at the Conrad Manila Hotel on September 24. Secretary Andanar will be joining fellow awardee PDEA Director General Wilkins Villanueva, who was cited for championing the implementation of the Barangay Drug Clearing Program. The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, assures voter applicants that satellite voter registration in malls will also be open on weekdays. The COMELEC launched the nationwide synchronized mall registration day at the Robinson's Place, Manila on Saturday. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the poll body has tapped malls as venues for voter registration as these have wide areas available to accommodate safe distancing protocols. Commissioner Aimee Ferolino Ampolocchio meanwhile said holding satellite registrations in malls also assures the safety of applicants. Aside from Robinson's Malls, Ayala Malls and SM Malls are participating in voter registration activities all over the country. The nationwide voter registration is set to end on September 30. Let's take a look at today's biggest stories. The government seeks to vaccinate the general population against COVID-19 next month with the arrival of more vaccines. President Duterte extends the declaration of the state of calamity due to COVID-19 for one more year. Back to school even in a pandemic, the Department of Education reports over 26 million enrollees this school year. And the Bureau of Fire Protection hopes to expand its roles as firefighters and protectors with the passage of the BFP Modernization Act. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.